The problem is simple: most men believe they are free, yet they serve invisibly. They think themselves powerful, yet they are but pawns moved by stronger hands. The true error of mankind is ignorance of their place in the hierarchy of power. If you do not know the level you inhabit, you cannot rise. And if you do not rise, you will fall beneath the weight of those who do. Tonight, I shall open your eyes. Men of ambition, listen well. For life is not governed by fairness, nor by virtue, but by power. And power is not a single throne, but a ladder, one which only the cunning ascend. In this discourse, I shall reveal to you the 5 levels of power that rule all kingdoms, all courts, and even the chambers of your own household. Know them, for without such knowledge, you will forever be ruled by another. Men deceive themselves when they believe power is a gift. They think it falls from the heavens like rain, or that it is inherited by blood, like the passing of a family crest. But I, Niccolò Machiavelli, tell you a bitter truth: power is never truly given, it is always constructed. It is built brick by brick, through necessity, cunning, and will. If you inherit a throne, but lack the skill to defend it, that throne will be stolen. If you are handed authority by fortune, but cannot wield it, your power will be hollow, and another man will soon replace you. Consider the fate of princes who came into power by the accident of birth. They were not strong because they were crowned. They were strong only if they fortified their position, trained their armies, and manipulated allies and enemies alike. Those who failed became victims of conspiracies, assassinations, or rebellion. A crown upon the head is but a symbol, without strength to defend it. It is no more than a golden weight pressing down upon the unworthy. You must understand this. Power that is given freely is like sand in the hands. It slips through the fingers of the careless. To hold it, one must close the fist, clench it tightly, and know how to use it as a weapon. And to build it, one must act with patience, with guile, and with unshakable resolve. Look to the soldier who rises from the ranks not by noble birth, but by victory in battle. His power is constructed, not inherited. Each step he takes upward is won through blood, through the loyalty of men who follow him, because he commands respect, not because he carries a family name. Such a man is dangerous to princes, for he understands the mechanics of power, while many rulers merely wear it. Do not be fooled by the illusions of fortune. Fortune may place a man upon the stage, but it does not give him the skill to act. Power is maintained only by the art of construction. A weak king will find himself ruled by his advisors. A timid general will find himself abandoned by his soldiers. A leader who does not know the foundation of power will see his kingdom collapse, like a house built upon sand. Consider also the merchants who were once despised as mere traders. Many of them became the true rulers of cities, not because anyone crowned them, but because they constructed power through gold, through influence, through control of bread, grain, and resources that no army could ignore. Here lies the essence of construction. One builds alliances, one buys loyalty, one shapes necessity itself. And in time, these men, who began with nothing but coin, commanded more than kings. The man who waits for power to be handed to him is a slave in disguise. The man who seizes it, who constructs it with patience, becomes a master. Every level of power I will show you begins with this truth: it must be built. And once built, it must be fortified against envy, rebellion, and the betrayal of men. Think of the papacy. Think of the courts of princes. Think of republics where citizens elect their leaders. In all of these realms, the figure who appears to hold power may in fact be the weakest. The real power lies with those who constructed influence behind the scenes, the advisor who whispers in the ear of the king, the banker who funds the wars, the general who controls the loyalty of the army. Do not believe in appearances. True power is invisible, and it is the work of construction. Even in your own life, this principle is clear. Your position at work, your role in society, your standing among friends. These are not given to you permanently. They are fragile, and they crumble if you do not reinforce them. You may think yourself secure because someone respects you today, but respect fades if you do not cultivate it if you do not build upon it. A man must constantly construct his strength, brick upon brick, until no force can easily topple him. Imagine two men. One is born into wealth, the other into poverty. The wealthy man believes he has power because gold rests in his hand. The poor man believes he has none. Yet if the poor man studies the art of influence, if he forges alliances, if he manipulates necessity and fear, he can rise above the rich man, whose wealth is squandered by arrogance. Power does not remain with those who simply receive it. It flows to those who know how to build it, protect it, and expand it. I tell you now, the greatest mistake is to confuse possession with mastery. To hold land does not mean you command it. To inherit an army does not mean it will fight for you. To be placed in office does not mean you truly rule. Power that is not constructed through your own hand is like a castle lent to you by another. It will one day be taken back. Only what you construct endures. Men imagine that power is a single throne, an absolute point at the summit, where one ruler commands all. Yet power is not a fixed place. It is a hierarchy, a ladder with many rungs, and men cling to it at different heights. At the base are those who obey, at the summit those who command, and in between lies a struggle of countless souls, climbing, clawing, and often falling. To understand the hierarchy of influence is to understand not only where you stand, but why you serve, or why others must serve you. The world is divided not merely by wealth, nor by crowns, but by influence. The lowest man has none. He bends under the weight of others. The highest commands even those who wear titles, for he shapes their decisions and bends their will. Between them is a gradation that determines who truly acts and who is merely acted upon. Imagine a court. The prince upon his throne seems supreme, but does he act freely? Often his actions are bound by advisors, by alliances, by debts, and by the fear of rebellion. Now look to the advisor who stands at his side. He whispers, and the prince obeys. Who then truly holds power? The crowned ruler, or the man who bends the ear of the crown? This is the hierarchy of influence. If you mistake position for supremacy, you are blind. A man with a title may in truth be weak, while a man with no title may hold invisible strings that make the title dance. Therefore, the levels of power are not illusions of office, but realities of influence. It is this hierarchy that governs kingdoms and governs men. Observe the army. At the bottom are soldiers, who obey without question. Above them stand captains and generals, but even they are not truly free, for their strategies are bound by the resources given by their rulers. And above the rulers may stand the financiers, the merchants, the church, or the people's belief itself. Thus the hierarchy stretches endlessly upward, and one must ask, who truly decides the fate of battles? The soldier who fights, the general who commands, or the banker who supplies the coin? Influence defines the answer, not mere position. This is why I say to you the ladder of power is constructed of levels, and each level commands differently. One may command by fear, another by necessity, another by belief, another by law. And the higher a man climbs, the more universal his influence becomes. But those who remain ignorant of this hierarchy imagine themselves free when they are enslaved, imagine themselves rulers when they are but pawns. Consider the city of Florence, torn between factions, nobles, and foreign invaders. Who ruled Florence? The Medici held titles, yes, but their power extended beyond office. They held resources, networks, and above all, influence. Even when exiled, their hand reached into the city through allies and debts owed. This is the truth of the hierarchy. A man removed from his seat may still command if his influence endures. But a man who has only his title and loses it is reduced to nothing, like a puppet whose strings have been cut. The 5 levels of power are not equal stages of respectability, but stages of mastery over men. The obedient, who act without question, are necessary, for they give strength to the structure. The positioned, who gain authority from their office, are visible rulers, yet fragile. The resourceful, who command wealth and necessity, hold stronger sway. The influential, who rule belief and shape perception, can govern without armies. And finally, the commander at the summit unites all these forces, bending them into his will. This is the natural order of power, and to deny it is to wander blind through a kingdom of wolves. Men live and die, without ever questioning which level they inhabit. A peasant who labors under tax believes the prince rules him, but perhaps it is the merchant who loans gold to the prince who truly dictates the peasant's fate. A soldier thinks his general holds his destiny, but perhaps it is the priest who blesses the war who gives him the courage to march into death. Thus the hierarchy is unseen, yet it is everywhere. To ignore it is to be governed in ignorance. When I speak of influence, I speak not only of kings and rulers, but of every man and woman, for in every household, in every marketplace, in every gathering of men, this hierarchy is alive. The father who commands his family has power by position, but the mother who shapes the hearts of her children wields influence. The merchant who sells bread wields resourceful power, for hunger bows all heads, and the priest who shapes belief may have no title in government, yet he governs the very souls of men. The hierarchy is eternal, and none escape it. The wise do not resist this ladder, nor complain of its injustice. They study it, measure it, and use it. A man must ask himself, do I rule by obedience, by position, by resources, by influence, or by command? For only by knowing the rung you stand upon can you ascend to the next. Those who remain ignorant climb blindly and fall, when the hand of another shakes the ladder. You must see, then, that power is not a single possession, nor a static throne. It is a living hierarchy, a chain of command and influence, where every man is either below or above another. To rise in it is difficult, to remain in it is harder still, but to ignore it is fatal. This is the lesson of the hierarchy of power, the truth that lies behind every crown, every coin, and every command. Men believe that life rewards all equally, that fortune one day descends and lifts the worthy to greatness. Yet this is a comforting lie. The truth is harsher, crueler, yet more useful to those who dare listen. The weak remain stagnant, chained to the same rung of life, while only the wise ascend. Strength is not measured by the body, but by the mind, by foresight, by cunning, and by the relentless will to rise. The ladder of power is before every man, but only those who see it clearly and climb with strategy will ascend. Look to the multitudes. Most men live as though their fate is fixed, as though the place of their birth determines their destiny. They toil in the fields, they follow orders, they wait for a miracle. These are the weak, not because they lack muscle, but because they lack vision. They see only the duties placed before them, never the path above them. They submit to their masters without question, and in so doing, they condemn themselves to remain eternally at the bottom of power. The weak do not rise, for they do not seek to rise. But the wise man, he is of a different breed. He looks upon the same world, yet sees more. Where others see obstacles, he sees opportunities. Where others bend under command, he studies the commander. He learns why men obey, why they rebel, and how both forces can be bent to his advantage. The wise do not live in the illusion that tomorrow will improve itself. They construct tomorrow with their own hands. Think of the ambitious soldier. His fellows march blindly, obeying orders, content with their ration of bread, but he studies the patterns of command. He learns the weaknesses of his officers. He earns the loyalty of his comrades. When the time comes, he alone is ready to take command. He ascends because he prepared for the moment, while others remained stagnant. He understood that power rewards the vigilant, not the idle. Stagnation is the true prison of mankind. It is not chains of iron, but chains of habit and fear. The weak cling to routine, for it comforts them, while the world moves without them. They excuse their inaction with words like fate, destiny, or bad fortune. Yet what they call fate is often only their own lack of strategy, their own refusal to act when opportunities present themselves. In truth, fortune favors the man who seizes her violently, not the one who waits timidly. Consider also the republics and kingdoms that once flourished, but fell into ruin. Why did they collapse? Because their rulers grew stagnant. They believed their power eternal, their cities unassailable, their people loyal forever. Yet the wise, who studied history, knew that no power remains without constant renewal. Rome itself, mighty as it was, decayed when its rulers grew complacent. The weak cling to past glories, the wise construct new ones. The ascent of the wise is not accidental, nor is it easy. It is deliberate, calculated, and often ruthless. To rise, one must shade illusions. One must harden the heart against pity that weakens resolve. One must learn the art of both cruelty and mercy, using each as the situation demands. Wisdom is not mere knowledge. It is the weaponizing of knowledge, and with this weapon, the wise carve a path upward, step by step. Do not think, however, that the weak remain harmless in their stagnation. They are dangerous in their numbers. They form mobs, they cling to their masters, they envy those who rise above them. Often they resent the wise, calling them deceitful, ambitious, or cruel. Yet this resentment is powerless against the man who has already ascended. The wise use the weak as stepping stones, bending their obedience and their envy alike into instruments of power. In courts, you will see the same truth. The weak advisors flatter without strategy, content with scraps of favor. The wise advisor whispers carefully, planting seeds that will one day bloom into command. The weak noble boasts of his title. The wise noble builds alliances that make his title unshakable. The weak merchant hoards his gold in fear. The wise merchant sends his gold into the world, multiplying it until kings themselves depend upon his wealth. In every realm, from the palace to the marketplace, the same principle holds: the weak stagnate, the wise ascend. Even in your own affairs, the law of ascent governs. Many men remain in the same position for years, never questioning why they do not advance. They tell themselves the world is unfair or that opportunity never comes. Yet the wise man creates opportunity. He learns the weaknesses of his superiors. He studies the desires of men. He makes himself indispensable. Slowly, invisibly, he rises, while his peers remain trapped in their own excuses. You must see the ladder clearly. At the bottom, stagnation; above it, motion. The weak are like stones in the river, unmoved, eroded, forgotten. The wise are like the water, always moving, finding cracks, wearing down obstacles until nothing can resist them. The weak remain where they began, the wise arrive where they choose, and in this difference lies the eternal division of men. The most dangerous ignorance a man can suffer is not the ignorance of the world, nor of books, nor even of his enemies. It is the ignorance of himself. For he who does not know the level of power he inhabits cannot rise, nor can he defend himself against those above him. To be blind to your own position in the hierarchy is to wander into battle without armor, to play a game whose rules you do not understand, and in such blindness, you will always be the pawn of another's design. Consider the man who believes himself powerful. Because others flatter him, he mistakes courtesy for loyalty and words for obedience. He thinks himself at the level of command, yet in truth, he is no more than a puppet dressed as a king. When the moment comes, when pressure is applied, he discovers his supposed power dissolves like mist. Why? Because he never knew the true level he occupied. He built his confidence on illusion, and illusion cannot protect him from the blows of reality. You must ask yourself constantly, do I command men, or am I commanded by them? Do I rule through title alone, or do I possess the influence to bend others, even when the title is stripped away? Am I obeyed because of fear, because of respect, or because men cannot live without what I provide? If you do not know the answer, you are lost. The man who knows his level knows also what weapons he must sharpen, and what dangers he must guard against. Look to the battlefield. The soldier who believes himself free may boast of his courage, yet he is only a body thrown into the designs of generals. His fate is not his own. He fights, he bleeds, he dies, all according to plans he will never see. Now look to the general. He commands troops, yes, but is his power absolute? No, for he relies on the resources given by the state, the money supplied by financiers, the approval granted by rulers. If he forgets this, if he imagines himself supreme, he too will fall, crushed by the very powers that enabled him. Thus every man must know not only what power he holds, but also what binds that power. Ignorance of level breeds arrogance. Arrogance blinds a man to his vulnerability, and blindness invites destruction. Many rulers have lost their thrones not because their enemies were stronger, but because they misjudged their own strength. They thought themselves at the summit, untouchable, when in fact they were dangling on a rung held by another's hand. Think of the merchant who believes wealth alone makes him invincible. He controls resources, yes, but what if he lacks influence? Then his gold can be seized, his markets closed, his alliances broken. Without influence, his wealth is a treasure chest waiting to be plundered. Now think of the priest who holds no gold, no armies, no office, yet commands belief. If he knows that his level lies in shaping the hearts of men, he can topple princes with a single sermon. The merchant who misunderstands his level will fall. The priest who understands his level will rise. Knowledge of one's position is the difference between vulnerability and strategy. Even in daily life, the principle governs. The man in a household who believes he rules, but does not see how his authority depends upon others, will one day find himself powerless. The worker who imagines himself equal to his master, because they share the same table, does not see that his livelihood hangs upon the decisions of that master. The friend who mistakes companionship for influence may discover that loyalty fades the moment advantage disappears. Each of these men suffers the same flaw. They do not know their true level. To know your level is not to accept it forever. It is to recognize the ground upon which you stand so that you may climb higher. The wise man looks at his position as a soldier, a servant, a merchant, or an advisor, and he asks, what rung above me can I reach, and what rung below me can I command? This self-awareness becomes a map of power. Without it, men drift, deluded into thinking themselves greater or lesser than they are. And both delusions are fatal. A man who underestimates his power wastes it, giving obedience where he could command. A man who overestimates his power risks everything, provoking battles he cannot win. The wise balance these dangers by measuring themselves constantly, never allowing pride or fear to distort the truth. For the ladder of power does not forgive mistakes. To misjudge your level is to place your foot on air when you believe it to be stone. History offers endless lessons of rulers undone by this blindness. Kings who thought themselves absolute discovered their armies were loyal not to them, but to their generals. Generals who imagined their troops unshakable discovered their men obeyed only as long as the coin flowed. Merchants who believed fortune eternal found themselves ruined when princes turned against them. Yet in each case, the downfall was not fate. It was the failure to know their level. Knowledge of self is the first weapon in the arsenal of power. He who knows where he stands can plot where he must go. He who knows who commands him can learn how to reverse the chain. He who knows who obeys him can ensure that obedience does not falter. In the hierarchy of influence, ignorance is death, but knowledge is the path to ascent. Now you have seen the truth. Unveiled power is not granted, it is constructed. It rises not as a gift of fortune, but as a ladder of influence upon which only the wise ascend. The weak remain stagnant, chained to obedience, while the cunning climb higher, step by step, mastering position, resources, influence, and command. Yet none can rise unless they first know their level, for the man blind to his place in the hierarchy is already defeated. Remember this: every crown, every army, every treasure, and every word of loyalty is but a tool. Power belongs not to those who wait, nor to those who dream, but to those who seize, build, and bend all things to their will. Ask yourself now, on which rung do you stand, and how far are you willing to climb?